So Wizards of the Coast thinks that Standard is dead, and they're correct. Standard is dead. As far back as when I started playing Magic the Gathering, Standard was like the pinnacle of how you'd get into the game. You kind of learn through Standard, and Draft was a part of Standard when you go to your LGS. Same as Sealed, same as pre-release. That was all associated with Standard. And then what I believe was the first catalyst that slowly eroded people's trust in Standard, and also just people's lack of wanting and desire to actually play Standard, was with the Master sets. That was the first catalyst. There's obviously a lot that I'm going to talk about in today's video, but the first one was the fact that they're making Master sets, which was supposed to drive demand for formats like Modern, which was a very popular format. I would argue in some ways Modern was more popular than Standard, but I digress. We're talking about Standard at this point, and obviously Modern is another format that has died. I would say there's two formats that have taken away some of the popularity away from Standard, and one of them is Commander, and the other one is Pioneer. Pioneer is the most competitive format right now for Wizards of the Coast. It's what a lot of people are playing on Arena. It's one of the things that they actually are showcasing a lot. Even at Magic 30th, they had a massive MTG Arena portion of the event, and that was mostly Pioneer. And every other table is pretty much just Draft, maybe some Commander pods, but I didn't see a lot of Modern being played. I didn't see a lot of Standard, because those formats are dead for a multitude of reasons. One of the reasons why Modern and Standard, I think, was like the first catalyst to get the chips really going down was probably the Master sets, and then after that, I would say, is the fact that you have rotation. Rotation is a harsh feeling for players who like to grind out games and then realize later on that those decks have rotated out of Standard, or a few cards in there have, and then they can replace them with something else, or just build a brand new deck for Standard, and that does take a lot of time and a lot of money. So when you're grinding out all these games, if you're not really keeping up to date about when cards are going to rotate out and what you're going to actually have to do to implement newer cards in there, you have to be looking at spoilers constantly to stay competitive, and that can be a bit of a drag, you know, especially when there's other formats you can play that you don't have to actually rotate cards out. They never really rotate. I mean, some cards, you know, get implemented in newer decks to make it more competitive for like Modern or Pioneer, for example, but at the end of the day, those decks don't really rotate out. You know, you might have a ban here and there, and then a deck dies, which is a massive reason why I think Modern died. And then you have Commander, which is a format where basically all cards are welcome, which is a lot more appealing to players, especially if they're looking to keep the value of their cards and also just have their cards as a keepsake to play whenever they want to with their friends. But apart from all of those reasons, which I just named, that attributed to the death of Standard, I think the most applicable reason is the fact that there are no Pro Tours. Competitive play is really the reason why people played Standard. It was like a gateway to get into other formats. You know, you grind it out in Standard, and then with the store credits that you're getting from these events, you can buy other cards and then keep grinding it out to potentially go to the Pro Tour. If you're a competitive Magic the Gathering player, Standard Pro Tours were like that was like the pinnacle of success for you as a player. And if you don't have a Pro Tour anymore, then why would you play a format that rotates? The only format that rotates. Why would you do that? Why would you spend all this money and time into a format that you can just play on MTG Arena for free? And you don't have to go to your LGS, spend money on new decks. You don't have to spend money and then replace cards that have rotated out of your Standard deck. There's no real reason to do that. Pro Tour was like the one reason to play Standard. And without Pro Tour, then really you just have casual play. If you don't have competitive, you have casual. And what is the most popular casual format? Well, that's Commander. And that's what Wizards of the Coast has been really trying to capitalize on Commander by making all these random special versions of cards in Standard sets that are clearly designed for Commander and not Standard. I mean, I feel like for the past 2 years, the majority of cards that are in Standard are kind of being pushed more for Commander, because Wizards of the Coast at the end of the day knows that that is the only way they're going to retain value, because no one really plays Standard. I mean, well, some people play Standard. I don't want to say no one, but the majority of players play Commander. It doesn't matter what format you love the most, whether it's Modern, Legacy, hell, even Pioneer, you probably have a Commander deck or two. At the very least, maybe a Commander Precon that you have sealed or sleeved up that you can go to your LGS or your friend's house and play. And that really, ultimately, is what Wizards of the Coast is trying to capitalize on, which is why it's so funny that, you know, you have a Forsyth basically asking the community why they think Standard is dead. And I just don't know if they're that tone deaf or if they're that unaware of all the things they've done that have led to the consequences of Standard dying. Really, if you're not supporting the LGS and you don't have Pro Tours, which is going to excite competitive players, which is really what Standard is, it's a competitive format, then yes, you are going to have Standard die. Now, my only concern right now is I really hope that they're not this tone deaf in the future about, you know, destroying other formats like Commander, which, you know, it's a format that was built by the players, so I don't think it'll ever really die. Standard is a format that was built by Wizards of the Coast, and they let that die. But yeah, it really feels like they're just trying to capitalize on things that players have done for the game and not really stuff that they've done. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, remember to leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.